Thank you, Presiding Officer. Can I also thank Stuart Maxwell for all the work he has done during his term as Housing Minister, and also the fact that the work he's done in the GHA, which has been very important to the people of Glasgow. And I look forward to working with my new colleague if the vote tonight actually goes through, and I'm sure it will. Presiding Officer, this government has taken steps to increase substantially the position and the provision of social and affordable housing, and I do applaud them for doing so. It's already been mentioned by various others, and I won't mention all the figures, the Cabinet Secretary in particular. More houses have been built under this government. The right to buy extended by Labour to housing association, abolished by this government. Housing associations which they applaud, and yet they actually extended the right to buy. And it's a great pity that Mary Mulligan and the Labour Party in general cannot actually acknowledge the facts that this government, only in 2 short years, not even 2 short years, has actually continued with pushing more money and listening to housing association also. It's a very important issue, housing, and I think it's a shame that the Labour Party once again use it as a political football. I think we should all be united together to rid this country of homelessness, and it's about time the Labour Party actually acknowledged and listened to what this government has actually been doing. Can I just get started, Hugh? I'll let you in shortly. I've not got that much time. Thank you. Returning to the Labour motion, and I will let Hugh Henry in a couple of minutes, returning to the Labour motion and the mention of urgency in the provision of land and regeneration of communities, I do think this is a very important point, and it must be tackled through joined-up thinking with local councils, central government and housing associations also. New planning legislation being looked at the moment should help, I would think, in this instance, and I sincerely hope that the forthcoming Commonwealth Games will provide the regeneration much needed in the East End of Glasgow, and I'll let the member in.
Hugh Henry.
Thank you. The criticism which Sandra White made of the Labour Party, I think, is misplaced, because what is being reflected from these benches this morning are actually the fears, the worries and the concerns of housing associations across Scotland. It's not us that are saying these things, it's your partners in the housing movement across Scotland, and you need to listen to them.
Say to Hugh Henry, I have listened to them, I have actually met with them. The criticism is the fact that they are denying the knowledge that this party, this government, actually has done work in the last number of years which they failed to do in the past 8 years, and that's the criticism I'm alleging towards the Labour Party. And I think they should actually hold their head and bow their head in shame for the fact that that's actually what happened. Nothing happened within the housing. Only we have spoken to the housing associations and put forward various issues that they raised with us. And I think we should get credit where credit is due. And that's what I'm saying to Hugh Henry. Now, can I just go on to Jamie McGregor's amendment regarding the second stage transfer? I mentioned the GHA when I mentioned Stuart Maxwell. And I would like to basically say to Jamie McGregor, just give him some facts and figures, and hopefully the Cabinet Secretary also. Yes, second stage transfer is very important. It was supported in Glasgow, but only if supported by the tenants. Only if basically the housing associations that were there actually were able to get a good deal from the GHA. And I think we have actually learned lessons from the housing second stage transfer in Glasgow, and I think people should actually look towards which actually is happening. And I do agree in one place with Hugh Henry regarding the overall developer instance, which has been put forward as a model. I think we should be looking at that again. So I do agree with you in that particular aspect. I think one main developer may be a bit tricky, particularly in the second stage transfer, and I think that's something that should be looked at. When I go back to second stage transfer, I would like to say that I do appreciate and welcome the funds which have been put forward, the increase in funds of HAGs. I'm sure actually that will put forward much more the second stage transfer housing associations in Glasgow. But I would caution in this particular one, this extra increase in the money for HAGs, which will help housing associations, must not be used by the GHA to increase the price of each unit. And I would actually seek assurances on this, that this will not happen. As I said previously, the road to the second stage transfer in Glasgow hasn't been easy, and I understand, and I would hope for clarification perhaps from the Cabinet Secretary, I understand that some housing associations are still awaiting valuation from GHA, even though the cut-off point is the 30th of March. And I think that is quite worrying in the aspects of it. As I said earlier, I would ask for clarification on this particular issue. I said previously that the experiences we've had in Glasgow regarding second stage transfer have been difficult at times. As I said to the Labour Party, we have met with them, and I do applaud Stuart Maxwell for meeting with them also to try and iron this out. Yes, second stage transfer for small housing associations is welcome and it is a benefit to the community. But the lessons we have learned in Glasgow, I hope, will be learned throughout the country, in Scotland, if they go through for second stage transfer. I welcome this debate. As I said, I think it's a very important issue, housing. We've got to get it right for all the people, not just people that are homeless, but the people who are living in houses which are deemed really unfit for habitation. And I would look forward to the questions I've raised with the Cabinet Secretary being answered, and also look forward to the fact that the Minister here can actually perhaps tell us more about the regeneration issues and the fact about the land banking, which Joanne Lamont has already mentioned. I think we have to get the best value we can. We've got to make sure that people in Scotland have decent housing, and second stage transfer has to go through if the tenants want it, but through not at any price. Thank you very much, Presiding Officer.